What's up, guys? We have a fantastic week so far. Once again, I'm bringing you guys another Warhammer video. We'll be looking at Titan Old Man Lore. This one's been recommended a while ago. You know who I'm talking about. I'm so sorry I never got to it. But I'm here now, and we're doing it now. And it looks good. I don't even know what to expect because just from the title alone, I can't really muster anything. So I'm completely in the dark here, which I'm okay with because it's going to be great regardless, and I'm excited for it. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure you guys like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. We just hit 300, which is amazing. So thank you guys for being here along my journey and just being an amazing community. I couldn't do this without you guys. So without you, I'm just another YouTuber. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Greatly appreciate it. And as always, the original video will be in the description. You guys want to check it out. As always, I always highly encourage it. These guys put amazing content out, and they put a lot of time and effort into this to make videos for you guys and people like me who are trying to learn Warhammer. Like, subscribe to their channel. It'll be in the description. Let's get to it. Oh shit. Oh shit, okay. Damn! The size of that little Hubbard.
The soul of the machine god surrounds thee. The power of the machine god invests thee. The hate of the machine god drives thee. The machine god endows thee with life. Live.
Okay.
Everybody gaze until the charge rolls
Translate.
up on you, son. Brah, brah.
Holy shit. Okay. Alright, not expecting that. I love it. I mean, let's just be honest. If you're driving that machine around, you're gonna feel pretty good about yourself. I mean, I'm just thinking like that. I mean, unless it's like one of those machines that's like when you're Dead Space Marine, you're thrown into that, which I don't think this is what it is. It could be. Okay, we'll just keep it going.
Titan. Of all the myriad of terms, symbolism, places, people, and things in the entire lexicon of this great bank of lore that we all know and love, few things have names that need so little explanation. If I were to give a complete novice to Warhammer 40k a description of the Primarchs to where they truly understood the power and potential, I would need a setup. I would need to couch figures like Horus and Vulcan in ways they could be easily understood. To explain the Astartes, or the Warp itself, the same would be needed. To even explain the Imperial Guard, I need to talk about the split between regiments and worlds. To explain why I hate Lorgar, I'd need 7 hours and enough horse tranquilizer to put down a charging rhino. But to explain a Titan, I only need 2 sentences. Imagine a city that hates you. Now give it weapons to level a city and legs to walk on, and then fill it with more things that hate you.
So it's not what I was
Now
thinking
you
of.
have a rough
Okay.
idea of a Titan. The name alone
So cool.
brings a certain idea to the forefront. Calling someone a Titan is almost always a compliment just because of the gravitas of the word itself. If someone is referred to as a Titan, it means they hold extreme importance, strength, or immense intelligence. In a universe where so many titles are held, and so many names of ancient mythological and historical significance are used, few things are as easy to explain as Titans. In truth, the moment you mention Titans, almost everyone knows that whatever it is, it's going to be massive.
Facts.
In the Field Museum of Chicago, there is a skeleton of a Brachiosaurus, one of the largest land animals ever to exist. With its neck fully extended, it would be over 13 meters off the ground. Just for a reference, just look at any...
By the way, I'll make you guys a cool little fact really quick because I feel like it. Did you know the nostrils on that dino is like the same size as a horse's? Yeah, same size as a horse's. That's how much oxygen was in there back in that day. Yeah, a little fun fact for you. Now you know.
semi-truck driving a full-length trailer down any road. Take the trailer off and stand it on its end, and the Brachiosaurus would be able to stick its head almost a full meter over the top
That's
of the upturned
insane,
trailer.
bruh.
Then realize that the smallest Titan the Imperium has would look down on that dinosaur.
Damn.
The
Damn!
tallest, however, would dwarf 2019's Godzilla.
No, there's no way. That's how big they get. I mean I thought they would be big because you know Warhammer, but that's stupid big. Holy shit!
That's a huge bitch.
That's
In a
damn.
universe where there is so much nuance and so much
How do
background,
you stop it?
Titans are one of the few things in the universe that is completely straightforward. A Titan is nothing more or less than a weapon of war. Weapons that have origins far before the rise of the Imperium and trailing back into the Age of Strife. At some point before the Eldar finished fucking Slaanesh into existence, and no, that's not just a turn of phrase, the galaxy was suffering from warp instability the likes of which would only really be rivaled by what is known as the Ruin Storm.
Damn.
Even Terror was shrouded from Mars by the warp storms, and even as the homeworld was beginning to tear itself apart, Mars was doing the same thing. At one time, Mars had been a fully terraformed world, with forests, rivers, and a sky like Terra's own. The Age of Strife changed all of that, eventually leading to the breakdown of Mars' atmospheric shielding and radiation exposure. Fallout shelters replaced living under the sun, and technology soon came to be revered, as it was only through technology that the people of Mars were surviving at all. It was from this reverence for technology that the Cult Mechanicus was birthed. As the Cult Mechanicus grew and its power expanded, the fires of industry began churning out more and more of the pre-Age of Strife Walker constructs known as Titans. Just as Terra did, Mars entered a period of civil war, with the Cult Mechanicus waging
course it
war
did.
against the other forges of Mars, all in the name of the central figure in their worship, the Omnissiah. There is no clear timetable of how long this war lasted, but what is clear is by the time the Emperor rose to prominence on Terra, the fires of civil unrest had been fully put out on Mars. In fact, Mars had not been idle at all. During the worst of the warp storms, massive battleship-class vessels known as Arks had taken to the warp from Mars, all in the search for the most valuable asset that the Mechanicum held dear: technology. Success rates of warp travel aside, it can now be guessed that not many of the attempts Mars made to pierce the ever more powerful warp storms made it through. What is known is that some were successful, and during the expansion of Terra, some of these very expeditions had arrived on new or existing worlds.
How'd they
mostly
find
in
their way
the
through?
Segmentum Solar.
But like how they find their way through? Because it isn't traveling the warp without like the Emperor, for instance, like difficult because it's literally just chaos, basically. You know, demons and shit. So isn't it hard to navigate the warp? So how they get successful? I mean, if some did, sure, maybe it was just pure luck. I don't know, man, because like even the Imperium, like even with the Emperor guiding them, dude, it's still risk. I don't know. Interesting.
And had established new Forge Worlds. It is from these Forge Worlds
Holy
and
shit.
other Forge Worlds founded further in time that all Titans are built, and the formidable forces known as the Titan Legions are assembled. For over 10,000 years, these Forge Worlds, and others that have been founded, have supplied the Imperium with not only the Titan Legions, but also the specialized troops that serve as the infantry to protect not only the inside of the Titan, but the outside as well. These troops are called the Scutari.
That looks dope.
These Titan formations are some of, if not the most powerful in the entirety of the Imperium, and unsurprisingly, they are the most expensive to deploy and maintain.
Not shocked.
While I have stated on more than a few occasions that a single Space Marine chapter at full strength could turn the tide of any war in the Imperium, the employment of a full Titan Legion would be tantamount to overkill at a level that almost beggars belief.
And that's in the Warhammer universe.
Help! There's a cliff! Ah! And your family screaming, "Oh my God, we're burning alive! No, I can't feel my legs!" In comes a meat wagon. Woo, woo, woo. And the medic gets out and says, "Oh my God." New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
All because you want to save a couple extra pennies.
To understand
Okay.
the pure power of these war machines, it pays to put their ability into perspective. During the Third War of Armageddon, the hive city of Hellsreach was besieged by a force consisting of around 30 war bands of the Crooked Moons, with numbers of individual orcs that went far into the millions, and it could be argued
Damn.
into the low billion range. Close to 120 Gargants of equal power to a warlord titan were employed, including one Gargant that was even larger than an Imperator class titan, which is the largest class of titan. And the city was
RIP
attacked
orcs.
by Emperor alone knows how many tanks, submersibles, artillery, and troop transports. Defending it were the men and women of the Armageddon Steel Legion, Hive Militia, 100 Black Templars, and 19 Imperial Titans from Legio Invigilata.
That's it.
Even against these massive odds, most of the Gargants sent against the city were destroyed. Most of the war bands had also been destroyed, and the orcs lost so much in terms of manpower as well as materials that even though they technically
Oh my
won the
gosh.
hive, they were forced to retreat
They
from
destroyed
it.
that thing? That mega one?
The final 5 Titans of Legio Invigilata were eventually eliminated on the final few days of the assault, and it took one of the largest Gargants ever constructed to do it. With the 19 Titans having been in the front lines for the entirety of the siege and having fought over 6 times the
I mean, think about it. Like, they didn't even lose all their forces, especially they didn't lose all their titans initially. Like, you guys, like those are orcs, all right, with their insane weapons and just insanity in the low billions, plural. Whoa.
they're
Like,
known-
you just gotta, like, understand, it's like that's nuts. Like, a few orcs alone are dangerous. That's
in an
that's
endless
nuts.
string
That's
of
stupid.
battles. The ones that were even still functional needed extensive repairs. After a full solar week of constantly fighting in the Rostock Ironworks, a battle that cost 7 Titans, they were preparing to return to their landers for rearm, refit, and refurbishment.
Those guns, dude, those
They
2
were
Gatling.
not about to get this break, however, as a mega Gargant named Godbreaker, a Gargant so powerful it had leveled a small hive city by itself,
Holy
appeared on their
shit.
Auspex trackers. Godbreaker, in the end, was responsible for destroying a full third of the Titans that had defended Hellsreach, including the final blow that brought down Stormherald, an Imperator-class Titan. This was only possible after weeks of brutal action,
That's
which had left
insane.
the Titans of Legio Invigilata depleted. If Godbreaker, a mega Gargant that had leveled a hive city which had stood against an orc siege for over a month without bending in less than 5 hours, had encountered Stormherald upon the Imperator's first few days of combat, Godbreaker would have been almost laughably easy prey to the massive Imperial Titan. As it stood, the orc machine only survived because of a poor decision brought on by exhaustion and arrogance. Godbreaker itself was later destroyed by a Black Templar who decided to pull a Bloodraven and stole a relic from the Mechanicus. Be sure to lock the reliquary.
And where the fuck did you come from?
Oh, the door was wide open.
Of all times to do it, too.
19 Titans of various size, with only a single Emperor-class Titan and at least half of them being Scout-class, had held out against 6 Titans.
Sorry about that, guys. My dad just walked through my door and was talking to me, so apologies for the weird cut and just for the, stoppage out of nowhere. My apologies. Let's continue.
Times their number and destroyed almost all of them. To truly consider Titans and how they are employed, and how to actually explain their deployments, it's best to compare them not to ground units such as tanks or artillery, and more appropriate to compare Titans to naval units such as frigates
No
and battleships.
way. I mean, that makes sense 'cause they're
This
restricted
comparison may
ability.
seem strange, but it is entirely fitting.
Damn.
Naval vessels hold 3 major classifications: battleship class, cruiser class, and escort class. Likewise, Titans hold 3 major classifications: Emperor class, battle class, and scout class.
So cool.
This classification similarity also carries down to how these units are deployed. with deployments of Titans mimicking those of the fleet. Just as a Luna-class cruiser would never be deployed without an accompanying force of escorts consisting of frigates and destroyers,
Makes
a
sense.
Warlord-class battle Titan would never find itself without a screening force of smaller scout Titans to watch its flanks. The reason for this is very simple, and it comes down to the fact that no matter how large or well protected a Titan may be with its own self-defenses, it can be rendered vulnerable if an opponent with weapons powerful enough to hurt it can manage to keep away from that Titan's.
And that just makes sense. Like if you even look at modern naval strategy when it comes to like how they deploy, it's like you don't deploy an aircraft carrier without support. Like aircraft carrier has destroyers, it has submarines, it has this has a whole fleet just around that aircraft carrier. And the same thing applies here. It's like, sure, the aircraft carrier is big, it's powerful, it's hard to take down and whatnot. And the same thing goes for, their Titan. But if you don't have the right escort around them, then basically your size and your strengths can also become a weakness too. It's like the old saying, the bigger you are, the harder you fall, right? So as just a basic strategy goes, that's how you do it. And that just makes sense. Doesn't matter how big and strong you are. I mean, parts will be exposed. Like it's not a perfect machine. It's not perfect. It's powerful, but it's not perfect. That's why you kind of put these other machines around it to eliminate the possibility of those weaknesses being exploited. And the same thing goes again for modern military. So that's cool.
Its own primary weapons, or if it finds itself swarmed by a legion of smaller attackers. In short, no matter how powerful a weapon is, no weapon is all-powerful. If an Imperator-class Titan, the largest Titan in construction, suddenly found itself caught in the open with a Scout Titan at its back, it could find itself humiliated as it is torn down, being unable to turn fast enough to bring any weapon to bear against this far weaker yet faster opponent. It is much easier to visualize in terms of a battle in space. The most obvious weak zone of a battleship would be its rear at the engine housing, and if a skilled escort captain managed to get in the rearward-facing position, there would be very little a battleship could actually do to maneuver away from the escort, while the lone vessel could simply sit in perfect safety, drilling through the defenses of the battleship, rendering the massive ship effectively helpless, even though the escort would be in all likelihood destroyed by a single volley.
Start to pause again, guys. Also, another way you can connect real life to this as well is thinking about tanks. It's like, even if you play a video game, let's say you're playing Battlefield, would you rather shoot a tank right on its side or straight forward, or would you shoot it from the back? Well, you shoot from the back because that's where it's weakest at, that's where its less armor's at, So the same rules apply, especially like how he's comparing it to the space battles. Is if you can get to the rear of any vehicle, you can take it down, It's just, you go to World War II, you have the Sherman versus, it's like, let's say, like a Tiger tank, or Panzer or something like that, The front armor of them is insane. Like, the Sherman can't penetrate that armor, but if you go from the backside, well, now you can penetrate the armor. It's the same principle applies.
From the battleship.
If that helps.
It is for this reason that just as the Navy is deployed in formations, the Titans are deployed in formations as well. The base formation that Titans are deployed in is called a maniple, and consists roughly of 5 Titans. The reason behind this number of Titans is religious, and more than anything else, being that 5 is a number of significance as it relates to destruction to the cult Mechanicus. Maniples have several common configurations, but the most common is called the Axiom. It is designed to use a large battle Titan, 2 smaller battle Titans, and 2 scouts. Most maniples are designed around either a guiding principle or a particular method of warfare. The Axiom itself is designed for a balance of engagement, combining speed and strength in equal measure. For contrast, the Fortis Battle Maniple is designed with 5 Battle Titans that are meant to fill purely defensive roles, allowing the enemy to come to them. There are a staggering amount of varieties that are considered when assembling a maniple, and although there are common variants to be considered, I will not be going any further into the various maniple formations, because to do so I would have to begin explaining not only every Titan class, but also all of their variants, because each one has a position within specific maniples designed to utilize the overall strength of the Titans in question to their absolute fullest. In the event that several maniples are in the same area, they are usually combined into a Titan battle group for as long as needed, with leadership being determined by the seniority and command status of the overall commanders of the individual Titans. I will go more into the command staff of a Titan later, but for now it's easiest to say that whoever is commanding the biggest Titan has been doing so for the longest gets to call all the shots. But one question that...
That's perfect. Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I have to go back and watch it one more time. I'm sorry. That was just awesome. I love orcs.
But one question that is often asked and is seldom answered.
Do you ever wonder why we're here?
Nope.
How are Titans actually deployed to a planet that is being attacked? Defensively, it's easy enough to speak of how Titans would act, simply walking out of their maintenance base to engage the enemies of the Imperium. But how would a Titan being brought to a world be deployed to attack it? Whenever the Imperium assaults a planet, or when any of the myriad races assault a planet for that matter, one of the first things that must be done for a successful invasion is to eliminate ground-to-air capability. There are ways to completely bypass this, and the Space Marines are a fantastic example, using their drop pods and Thunderhawks, which typically evade most incoming ground fire. The Titan Legions, for the most part, need to wait for naval assets and some ground assault assets to handle most ground-to-air capability in order to begin landing on the planet, relying on bulklanders, mass transports, as well as specialized coffin ships to move the enormous bulk of the Titans both to and from the planet itself. To get an idea of a mass transport, simply imagine a ship as long as New York City is wide, and you have a general idea of the size of the vessel in question. With such a craft attempting to make planetfall, you'd want to ensure that naval assets and specialized squads eliminate the ground-to-air capability. Because with the size of the landers in question, even a drunk chimpanzee high off mushrooms could reliably hit it with a crossbow while on a roller coaster.
Apes win war! Apes together! Strong!
These ships are so large they can affect the weather patterns on a planet just by simply entering the atmosphere.
That's so cool.
So, for those of you all keeping track, there is option A, a heavy bulk lander which can comfortably fit a Titan. Option B, a city-sized mass conveyor that can carry multiple Titans. Or option C, a specialized craft called a coffin ship that is specifically designed to deploy an entire maniple or a single Emperor-class Titan, just a little more rapidly than normal methods. Then, of course, there's another option entirely.
To do music.
For those of you who have watched prior...
So, before you do this, the way I was thinking of it would be like, if you guys ever played Titanfall, the video game, where the Titan just drops from the air, I hope that's what it is, because that's the most badass way to do it. If you guys have never seen a Titanfall drop, you guys can look it up on YouTube. I might put in a clip of it, but it's super cool, and it makes you feel like you're like a badass. So that's just me. I always love to do Titanfall drops. I just felt so cool when I did it. But
Voxcast of mine related to the lore of this fantastic universe, you may recognize this term. For now, we are going to discuss the Lotara option.
Talk with me then. Nice.
Now I know this is a far cry from any of you rational, sane, Emperor-loving people out there, but let's just assume that you're a heretic and you're currently engaged in one of your favorite damnable activities, either whacking off with barbed wire, beheading small woodland creatures to make a fucking chair, being Zinch, or basically going out in 2020 without a mask.
Oh, I have the coronavirus, that's why I don't have a voice. So clean the mic up.
Look at bro's face.
Okay.
Bro's done.
You're a happy heretic and you're helping other heretics just like you overthrow the local imperial government because you are an asshole. At some point you see a toaster sitting on the side of the road and take a piss on it, videoing yourself while you do it, and you decide it'd be a great idea to upload it to Snapchat or Facebook so everyone can see what an edgy little heretic you are. And that, my little heretic bastard friend, is when you happen to look up and see this. This is a Titan drop pod. This is how the Mechanicus informs you that you're a massive asshole and shit just got real. While most Titans are delivered by bulk landers or massive coffin ships, where the gate is going to take a full 5 minutes to open, sometimes the Mechanicus is just fed up with your shit and you're going to die for it. If you thought a Space Marine drop pod assault was awesome, you haven't even considered how the Mechanicus throws down when they are legitimately pissed off. A Titan drop pod assault is the most Imperium thing ever, because not only is the Mechanicus ship going to shoot a skyscraper-sized ordnance at your local Applebee's, that skyscraper ordnance is going to deploy another skyscraper that can level a city block with a skyscraper-sized weapons.
Yo, everybody gangster till the motherfucking cathedral spreads some feet. Start shooting.
A Titan drop pod is essentially a huge service bay that encases the Titan and thrown down on a planet. That is how you get shit done, friends. These massive drop pods hit the ground hard enough to throw an Astartes off the ground. Their sides pop off, and congratulations, it's a boy! Out strolls a 60 to 480 foot tall middle finger to everything you hold dear. What's that, I hear you say? It's not ridiculous enough for you? Well, let me introduce you to the Legio Astora, the only Titan Legion of the Imperium that uses teleportation to deploy.
Shut up. Shut up. Holy shit!
Yes, you heard me right. Imagine you're the same said heretic pissing on same said toaster, then suddenly your eardrums burst and you're thrown into the air by the displaced air from a pissed off Chrysler building behind you. And the last thing you feel before you get hit with a weapon that shoots an energy beam larger than an apartment building is vibrations from the sound of its war horn.
That's so cool.
One thing should be perfectly clear about these deployment methods. If Titans land on a planet, the Imperium at that point is purely committed to the outcome. Because while the process of deploying a Titan from orbit can take hours, the process of withdrawing a Titan can take weeks. The sheer resources involved in landing a Titan consists of placing a fully functional mechanic bay that will hold the Titan, enabling repairs to be conducted on planet, as well as all the parts and personnel that such a bay would require.
Defense is everything.
To give some real-world context, imagine a U.S. Navy frigate, a dry dock that could fit it, all the cranes and gantries that would not only support it but used in its repair, and all weapons and ammunition to replenish it several times over, as well as parts to repair damage. Take all of that, make it mobile, and drop it from orbit. And simply imagine the time it would take to move all of that from the East Coast to the West Coast. Now imagine the time and effort it would take to transport all of that into space. This
decades,
is the level
probably,
of pure commitment that deploying even the smallest Titan would take.
For our technology, I mean.
This level of commitment varies by the class of Titan, of course, with the smaller Scout Titans taking considerably less effort than would the much larger variants in the Battle Class Titans, and it's seemingly inconsequential compared to that of an Emperor Class Titan. With all of that being said, the commitment of Titans to a battlefield is a decision that the Imperium does not take on a whim, because the second that the Titan enters the atmosphere of a planet, the Imperium is in a must-win scenario. While these war machines are incredibly powerful, the loss of even one is a cost that sometimes not even an entire planet is worth. This all boils down to the sheer amount of resources, time, and effort that goes into the creation of all the Mammoth Walkers. Unlike many of the weapons, tools, and ships of the Imperium, Titans are not built using the standard template constructs that so many things of the Imperium are based on. Titans are built purely from knowledge that is kept by the Mechanicum, a far cry from the way most everything else is created. It is not a lack of knowledge that makes these massive machines so rare, or lack of blueprints because the Mechanicus has them in scores. It comes down purely to the religious fanaticism of the Mechanicus itself. I'll use an example here that most, if not everyone, can relate to. Go to any store and buy a piece of furniture that you yourself assemble. Let's use something easy in this example. A small bookshelf. 2 sides, 3 shelves, and a kickboard. Let's be generous and say it has 16 screws to mount 8 brackets. The task of building this from the blueprints would take anyone with the appropriate tools maybe 20 to 30 minutes from removing the pieces to the box to a completed project, and less time if they had done it regularly. Now let's introduce the religious fervor into building this same bookshelf of the Mechanicus. First, you must say a prayer to remove the pieces from the box. Secondly, you need incense to bless the materials. After that, pray over the drill and cleanse it with sacred oils. Then there is a prayer to fit the correct bit into the drill head and a special incense to pray to the machine spirit of that drill. Then you must offer the correct incantation to pull both the battery for the drill off of its charger, as well as connecting it to the drill itself. What follows after that is an inspection of the materials and prayers. Then we have prayers, incense, and oils for every screw and bracket to be used in the construction. None of this is an exaggeration. This is how they build Titans. Extrapolate that scenario
Overkill,
upwards,
but that's
the
how they
orders
are.
of magnitude for a fully functional machine with complex computer systems and weapon systems, and you start realizing why Titans take so long to build. The construction of a Titan is nothing short of a religious experience for the Mechanicus, so much so that even the materials used are highly scrutinized. Every part, every panel, from the plates on the feet to the solder used to fuse circuits, is checked, double-checked, and triple-checked to ensure that nothing but the most purest of materials goes into the building of the giant walkers. Every installation comes with its own list of required ceremonies, incense, and blessings. It is this focus on the religious
nuts.
aspect that can make the construction of an Emperor Titan last well over a few centuries, whereas if it were done purely mechanically, it would only take a few years.
That's nuts.
The Mechanicus sees Titans as the greatest physical representation of their god, and even the ecclesiarchy cannot hope to match their religious fervor in most cases. If the Mechanicum zealotry were to be put aside for even 200 years, the Imperium would most likely be able to place a full maniple of Titans on almost every strategic.
And you probably couldn't even stop, like most threats wouldn't be a problem anymore. Like if you have, like, let's say they put their religious, quarrels to the side, and they have just this huge abundance of these Titans, and Tyranids attacked, which Tyranids are very, very dangerous and they take over planets very easily. They probably wouldn't be much of a threat if you can deploy them. Titans, like how is this organic being gonna evolve to take on this Titan? It's just not gonna happen. Space Marine makes sense because the Space Marine is still limited to a certain degree because it's not a a skyscraper thing. It's still a person at the end of the day, But you couldn't stop the Imperium. Like, you could not stop the Imperium. They would be overpowered, and of course, the limitations of deploying them and whatnot. But if you have an abundance of these machines and these Titans, you can just deploy them at will with little to no consequence. Because by the time one really goes down, because they're so hard to take down, you already have 2 or 3 more of them about to be finished getting built. Probably, That's nuts. And a video I reacted to, it's a few videos ago. It's where it's like an animation showing like the Space Marine getting his armor on and whatnot. I was comparing in my mind to how they, build these Titans. They have to pray and they have to do each individual thing very uniquely just to put the armor on a Space Marine before he's even deployed. From his weapon to his helmet to his everything. It's this whole ceremony. So it doesn't really shock me that they're like that. It's just kind of how they are. Interesting.
Important world as a garrison, and most likely triple the current number in use in any wartime scenario. And now we have to discuss the concept of something so ingrained in human society that it simply cannot be separated. It is another thing that the Emperor would have rather never spread across the galaxy, but he allowed for the sake of convenience. Shameless plug for the Mistakes of the Emperor series. That concept is the machine spirit, which honestly translated originated as nothing more or less than a primitive form of artificial intelligence. I wouldn't honestly inform the tech priests of the mechanicus of this, however, because they would violently disagree with you with heavy weapons. The belief in the concept of the machine spirit.
You're just like one guy with like a sign outside, you know, and just this open area saying, yeah, there's no machine spirit. And you just see like just a huge Titan just falling onto the planet. they just deploy Titan just on you. That'd be hilarious.
Spirit has spread from the larger, more
funny
complex
shit.
forms of computer systems, such as those within Titans and Imperial Knights, to even the most basic mechanisms of the lasgun. Guardsmen will offer a short prayer to the machine spirit of their lasgun so it will function. There are several recorded incidents of the burning of incense to change the settings on a Voxhaler. And when a Titan's power is turned on, there is almost a full-on Deep South revival as far as the required prayers and rituals are concerned.
Man, that guy's a lot of shit.
All of this has developed from humanity doing what it always does.
Wilson! Wilson! I'm sorry! I'm sorry, Wilson! Wilson, I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Wilson! I can't! Wilson! Wilson!
You're so asshole.
The anthropomorphizing of inanimate objects
it.
that we hold distinct familiarity with and associating traits with non-existent feelings or emotions. This was a belief that has roots in the way we act even today, where we will often talk to our vehicles if they start acting up, or in the way we refer to a naval warship as a her. With the implementation of highly advanced computer systems that can autopilot as well as provide threat recommendations as well as a myriad of other functions, it only makes sense that a highly religious organization such as the Mechanicum would take the next step in the train of logics that the beliefs flowed down. The fact that a highly advanced combat computer directly interfaced with the brain of a pilot would be drawing attention to threat parameters is not just the program working as intended. It is in fact the powerful machine spirit of the Titan that wishes to engage the enemy. The rush of emotion coming from the control of the Titan as it moves down the street for the first time isn't the sensation of the pilot in the Mechanicum's eyes, it is the machine spirit glad to be moving again. In truth, most actual things classified as machine spirits are actually artificial intelligences at about the same level of intelligence as a dog, able to carry out simple orders and commands, but the assignment of personality and emotion to these advanced systems are a religious creation and not much else. There is a distinct reason why advanced forms of AI that are truly self-aware are banned throughout the Imperium, and it is because typically when a system becomes self-aware, it generally attempts to wipe out humanity as quickly as possible.
Terminator.
Usually for the purpose of self-preservation. We see this with the only Titan that came with its own STC, the Castigator class, which instantaneously viewed humanity as an existential threat to itself. There are instances recorded of the machine spirit of a vehicle continuing to function well beyond its design parameters, as well as equipment acting very strangely if the correct prayers and rites are not carried out. This stems from another constant of the Warhammer universe. Belief in the 40k universe is a massively powerful thing. And so many people have believed in machine spirits for so long that quite literally the masses of humanity in their faith may have simply willed them into existence. I know what some of you are thinking, and you're absolutely correct. The truth of the matter is that machine spirits are actually demons that have been prayed into existence and function exactly as they are believed to. Even fully built, armed, and with the most aggressive machine spirit known to exist, there is still one component that the Titan requires: crew. And this crew radically changes in size the larger the Titan in question
Makes
gets.
sense.
Smaller Scout Titans can be crewed by as little as 5, with a supporting group of upwards of 4 servitors. The largest will have a crew of hundreds, as well as a garrison force of Scutari to repel boarders. Aside from the tech priests and adepts you will normally find on board a Titan to ensure the systems continue working at peak efficiency, the ranks on board a Titan's command staff are surprisingly straightforward. Aside from a chief engineer on larger Titans, there are only 2 other primary officer roles. Both of these roles differ drastically from the other roles on board a Titan, primarily because these roles are the only ones who physically interface with the Titan itself. The second most senior in rank is called a Moderate, and there are usually 2 assigned on every Titan to this role. The Moderate's primary responsibility is to oversee certain tasks and orders, such as the firing of weapons and the orders to subsections of the Titan itself. One of the most common ways the Moderate will interface is via the weapon systems or the motive system, being able to monitor the needs and status of these subsystems. These crew members are sometimes in grooming to be promoted to the status of commanding their own Titan, but in many cases these officers will never be promoted to that status, or if they are given command of a Titan, it's usually one of the smaller ones in the Scout classes. While they are in truth connected to their assigned systems more closely than the overall commander of the Titan, they don't have the deeper bond that the commander does with the Warwalker.
Makes sense.
The commander of every Titan, from a Scout Titan to the Imperator class Titan, is called the princeps. The princeps interfaces directly with the advanced computer, aka the machine spirit, of the Titan. And only 1 in perhaps 10 million will be able to command a Titan at the most basic level, and far fewer still will be able to get through the training process required. Most aspiring princeps who attempt to interface with a Titan will be driven completely insane on the first try. And the truth of the matter is that everyone who interfaces with a Titan long enough will lose their sanity. It is only a matter of time. So basically I'm trying to find something funny about losing your mind. There's something that makes you lose your head, and I can't find anything right now, so like I'm just trying to get through this. I've been at this for 20 hours almost. What do you think would be a good thing for losing your shit?
Like your face.
Unlike most Mechanicum staff, those selected to be princeps are not heavily augmented with cybernetic enhancements, believing that the organic components of their bodies will serve as an anchor point to keep their mind intact when interfacing with the Titan, and to keep the princeps from losing themselves completely to the Titan too soon. However, a princeps will have extensive augmentations done to their central nervous system, in their skull and in their spinal cord, in order to facilitate the connection to the Titan's primary control system called the Mind Impulse Unit. When the princeps is plugged into the Mind Impulse Unit, they literally become the Titan, controlling the massive weapon, just as an Astartes would control a suit of power armor.
So cool.
Imagine, just for a moment, that sensation, to be a Titan. Imagine the feeling of being hundreds of feet tall with the power of a god at your fingertips. Imagine the sheer act of walking, the flooding of your senses with information and input, and the feeling of bonding with a machine intelligence that seems to urge you onwards to combat. It is no wonder that they call Titans the god machines of the Mechanicus, because the concept of a Titan alone is so powerful it beggars belief. Your hands become weapons that can level an entire city should you so choose. Your feet flatten tanks underneath your stride. Smaller weapons are meaningless compared to the pure power you possess. It is, in every way, becoming a literal living god of metal and war. And if it is true that power is addictive, then being in control of a Titan of any size or stripe would be an addiction that would put any other to instant shame. A princeps who is disconnected from the Titan will begin to crave the sensation again, and eventually this craving becomes so inescapable that the princeps and the Titan become inseparable, and the addiction only worsens over time. I must admit that the thought of becoming a Titan sounds wildly addictive, even just to describe
Yeah,
it.
facts.
But every addiction has its way of killing you. And even though a princeps strides the battlefield as a living avatar of war, eventually the Titan will prove victorious in the relationship between the two. As the addiction to the power grows, the mental strain slowly builds, with the machine spirit of the Titan warring constantly for control. As interconnected as the princeps and the Titan truly are, it's a class of personalities that will only ever end one way. Given enough time, provided the princeps survives for long enough, measures will have to be taken to preserve the princeps to continue fighting. Some princeps eventually find themselves entombed within their Titan, living within a tank and kept in stasis, only roused when the Titan itself marches to war. Their hands, feet, and eyes, rendered useless, will be removed, replaced with augmetics to further the connection to the Mind Impulse unit. It is at this point that Titan and Princeps are truly one, body and mind truly connected, sharing everything. The Princeps withers completely, becoming nothing more than an organic husk. At this point, it simply becomes a matter of time. The Princeps will die in the tomb of their own making, either from combat or losing their sanity finally to the ever-present gnawing of the Titan's machine spirit.
Insane.
For decades or even centuries, the Princeps was the very embodiment of war, a Titan. And there are only 3 threats to a Titan: folly, hubris, and another of its own kind.
I don't know what else to say. That was amazing. I don't think I've ever been that engaged in a Warhammer video yet. I mean, I've enjoyed every video I've done so far of Warhammer, but that one was just different. It's just like just how just cool it was. I mean, just the Titans themselves are just so cool. They're massive machines that just have almost unlimited power. I mean, can't get better than that. I mean, that was amazing. I can't believe I waited this long to react to it. What was I doing? I don't know. I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, because I surely did. Again, the original video will be in the description for you guys. If you guys want to check it out, I highly encourage it. He said himself in the video that he's been doing it for over 20 hours. So I think he deserves a sub or a like if you guys have not done that for him yet. And if you guys enjoyed the reaction, enjoy my content, make sure you guys like and sub here. Again, I just reached 300 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that. You guys are truly amazing. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.